وتعاملت على نصرة شريعتك فوثق اللهم رابطتها وأدم ودها واهدها سبلها واملأها بنورك الذي لا يهبو واشرب صدورنا بفيض الإيمان بك وجميل التوكل عليك وأحييها بمعرفتك وأمسها على الشهادة في سبيلك إنك نعم المولى ونعم النصير اللهم آمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Thank you, Brother Shukri. So now, without any further delay, I would like to welcome our head of department, Dr. Helmi, to deliver his slides.
To the representative of the Kuliah, Dr. Ainul Azmin, the Dean of Research, members of the department, participants, members of HISTFORIUM, Assalamualaikum W.B.T. So first of all, I would like to express my deepest gratitude, our deepest gratitude on behalf of the department for the effort that you have made to come here and be with us today. So this is an event that we organize annually. So it is part of the Kuliah's Scholarship Advancement Program. Okay, so what is Scholarship Advancement Program? After this, Dr. Ainul will explain. If my memory serves me right, this is the third year of SAP. Fourth. It started in 2018, 19? Before, yeah. So, I think the last time we had it was in 2020. We skipped 2021. I don't know why, because maybe because of the pandemic at the time. And we had, like, in 2020 we had the Markarari, so it was like a hill station with just few of us, with the members of the department and just few participants. And before that, we had a HISTFORIUM in 2019, and so this is the third time. So the last two seminars were organized in semester 3, and that was the practice at the time. But this time we decided, with the advice of our research coordinator, that perhaps we can have it in the normal semester 1, when the students are around, so that we can have them together with us as participants in the seminar. So, because of course you have known all of the is to our latest research in the field. Okay, so part of us is research. So I think it is important for us to have this opportunity to share our research works, our latest research works. I'm happy to see the number of the participants right in front of me now, but this is beyond my expectation, alhamdulillah. So I have nothing else to say. I just want to pray for the smooth running of the program. Okay, I hope that all of you will benefit from this seminar, inshallah. So thank you so much. And before I end, I would like to thank HISTFORIUM, the leadership of Brother Haris, for the assistance that they have given to the department. So it would not have been possible for the department to have this seminar without their help. Okay. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Henry, for the speech as well. Next, I would like to invite our Head of Research, Dr. Ainul Azmi, to deliver the speech. Please welcome, Dr.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dr. Helmi, the head of Department of History, my esteemed colleagues at the Department of History and Civilization, brothers and sisters of the department. Firstly, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for inviting me to join this wonderful event actually. Yeah, because I think this is in fact a gathering of academics and also students sharing our academic activities, our research activities here in the department and here in the kuliah. Thank you very much again for inviting me. I feel very humbled by this invitation. When Dr. Henry said that I am representing the kuliah, the dean, I don't know if I can fit in that shoes actually. All right. But my role primarily as the head of the research is to share as much information and to encourage everyone in the kuliah to contribute to our research activities, not just for the department, but also for yourself, and of course for the Ummah in general. Okay, because Dr. Henry mentioned about SAP just now, I feel that I should share a bit, the information in general about what SAP is about. So SAP basically stands for Scholarship Advancement Program, and this was the slide that I prepared for Shukran, because at the beginning of our semester 3, that was when we started the SAP. He wanted me to get some information so he can share with everyone in the kuliah. So this is basically the leaflet that we prepared, and he was explaining about it in all the SAP meetings that he attended along with me and also Dr. Hasina. Okay, I'm just going to go through this very quickly. So the SAP, sorry. Okay, this slide is actually meant mainly for our academics, all right? To just refreshing about our role as academics in the university, where we also carry out a lot of research activities, and in the end, the outcome will be our publication, our collaboration, the involvement of our postgraduate students, right? All the research assistants who whom we apply to be part of the research. Okay, so academics in our career have been accomplishing their roles as knowledge workers. We call ourselves knowledge workers, yeah, for both internal and external community. So we carry out our responsibility not just for the community in the US within the campus, but also others outside. Yeah? This is the high impact research that we are talking about now. Okay, so we just fast forward. I'm going to go straight to, okay, this is basically the background. All right, so there are basically 4 types of SAT. Yeah? Scholarship of discovery, scholarship of teaching and learning, scholarship of integration, systemization or relevantization, scholarship of application, and scholarship for community engagement. Okay? So just by looking at those titles, I think you can imagine what these different types of scholarships are. Yeah, we are not rigid just to look at the scholarship activities in terms of teaching and learning only. All right, it can also go beyond that. It's also scholarship of discovery. It's also about integrating. Yeah, in our career, we are very unique. We have IRK and also human science, so we can always integrate both disciplines, right? And then we apply the theories that we have discovered. So that's scholarship of application. And also the last one, scholarship of community engagement. This is now a very big thing in our university. That is the narrative that we hear every day. Yeah, we want our campus community to go out and meet people, right? Apply the knowledge or the research or the tool that we have learned and studied with the community, right? To make an impact to the society. Okay? I can just fast forward. So these are some of the elaborations, all right? Okay. Next one. Next one. Okay. All right. What are some of the activities in SAT? Okay, do not think that when we talk about SAT, it's just about doing research. Yeah. Lecturers may think, students may think that lectures are just cooped up in their room, writing and writing, looking at journals and all that. But actually, there are many activities that we can do. Yeah. So these are some of the activities, all right, where academics can involve themselves, get themselves involved along with others. Yeah. We can edit a book, all right. We can submit a book manuscript, all right. We can write a book chapter. Okay. Complete a research report, right? Submit journal articles, complete a newspaper or online magazine articles. We send our opinions, yeah, to columns in Ministry Times, for example, right? In IIUM today, for example, yeah, you see a lot of your lecturers sending in articles, right? We can present in conferences, okay? We can also conduct workshops for our colleagues. I just conducted one workshop yesterday for University Sultan Azman Shah. All right, so a little bit of sharing based on my HSTI qualitative research. Okay. So all of these are the activities that academics are involved in, and they can do that with their students. Yeah. For example, that conference there. I'm sure, many of us here have been sending our students, to present, right? These are papers that we write together with our students. Last semester, I published 2 articles from my FYP work. Yeah, not my work, my students' work, but I supervised them. Yeah? Of course, before we send for publication, there'll be a lot of polishing done. Yeah, we have to edit and all that. That's pretty normal. Yeah. But the students get to be involved as well. They are part of the process. Yeah? And this is the cascading effect that we would like to see, from the academics to the students that they supervise. Okay, next. All right, so what we are having right now is actually one of the main activities. Is this a seminar, Dr. Yami? We can call this as a seminar, yeah? All right. Other departments have conducted theirs, all right? we've had colloquiums. This is where a lot of the PG students are also involved. Presenting things done through online. My department of English, we actually conducted a hybrid event, right? SAT event, because there were those who were here in campus, but there were also others joining us online. We have publication training, alright, talks, sharing sessions, and also guided writing workshop. Alright. Okay. I'm going to talk about that later. Okay. So that's about it. What it means by SAP. Alright. Just to refresh in our mind a bit. Because in reality we do this every day. But semester 3, right? The recent semester 3. Actually is the special time for all our lecturers to focus, to concentrate on their research and publication. Okay, so I'm going to move on now to the slides that I prepared for all the departments that I joined in terms of their event, right? The SAP event. Okay, these are some of the updated information from the research center, from the library, and also from our own kuliah, where we would like to share with the lecturers in the departments. And the students can also see that there are always opportunities where you can be involved in your lecturers' research activities. Alright, the list of the current opportunity that the kuliah is involved in. Alright, I mean the collaboration that we are having at the moment with, for example, we have right on top there, Office of the Malacca Mufti. Now, what happened was some of us from the kuliah had a meeting with the people from the Malacca Mufti office. I think we are very privileged to have Dr. Hazizi, as one of the lecturers who attended. So Dr. Hazizi has first-hand information about this collaboration with the Malacca Mufti office. So when they came back, they shared with the kuliah what are some of the issues the Mufti office would like us to help them. Because they have problems in Malacca, right? This is an example of a state. So they have specific problems, and they would like us, people who have the expertise, people who know how to carry out research, to help them, address all these issues that we have. Alright. So we have listed there, just for the Malacca office, Malacca Mufti office, 7 areas that they would like us to help them with. Alright. So when people like Dr. Azizi comes back, he will bring all these issues to us, in the department, in the kuliah, and so we will share with the rest. Alright? So your lecturers who are experts in their specific disciplines would write proposals, would come up with ideas, basically, how we can help people in Malacca. So at the moment, as we speak, Dr. Azizi, we are trying to arrange for a meeting, because I already received, I think, at least 4 proposals for the Mufti office. But I would like to encourage the other lecturers also to have a look again at the titles. Maybe there are areas that you can help write a proposal, and inshallah we'll present to the agencies and see if they like it, and then they can take us as their principal investigator for the project. I think number 5, number 6, and number 7. These are very much related directly to your department. Number 7, for example, to trace about ulama in Malacca after the fall of Malacca in 1511, and how they contributed to the defending of the faith of the Malacca people. Alright, who better to take up this project but people from your department? When Prof. Shukran looks at all this title, he will just tell me, okay, I think we can ask this department, I think we can ask that department. Alright? Many times he would even mention names of academics from the respective fields. Right? So we have areas for research from Melaka, from University Riau, this is from Sumatra. There's also the office of the Mufti of Kedah, alright, and then Jabatan Agama Islam Kelantan, okay, of course our close partner HITFORIUM, okay, and also the 7 villages in Gombak. These are the villages surrounding our campus, right? A lot of their issues are psychosocial issues, alright, but as researchers, we can lend our hand, conduct all the the research for them, to help them address a lot of the problems that are still going on among the people in Gombak. Okay, all right. So we hope to get as many proposals as possible, before we have the next meeting with all these agencies, and then the lecturers can join the meeting to present their proposals. Okay. Okay. In terms of publication, we need not have to look far, all right, because all your articles can be published within the university. Okay? In our kuliah alone, I'm not talking about the university, in our kuliah alone, we have 11 journals. Alright, we have 11 journals. Okay, and 2 of these journals are Scopus Index. Alright, I think among the lectures, you know what I mean, the higher, dia macam darjah kemuliaan lah, for all these journals, right? You want to try and publish in, intellectual discourse and Asiatic, because these 2 are Scopus Index journal. Okay. Other than that, we have Prof. Syukran's journal, not say Prof. Syukran's journal, but he is the editor-in-chief, for IIM Journal of Human Sciences. Okay. Prof. Asim, that's the linguistics journal for Arabic. Okay. And then we have again Usufi. Next. Dr. Fauzia here is the editor-in-chief for IIM Journal and Religion, and Civilization Studies. So this is very unique to your department, alright? Dr. Kabwe is handling Risalah. This is really an integrated journal. I have published 2 here. Okay. Prof. Rama is heading Tajdi, alright? Dr. Salam, Journal of Islam in Asia. This is a journal where it is trilingual. You can send your journal articles in English, in Arabic, as well as in Bahasa. So don't worry about the language so much, right? Dr. Usmani is heading Al-Burhan, that is the journal for Al-Quran and Sunnah, right? And also from Azam, Al-Ifan, right? So we have 11 journals actually. At the office, at my office, I help to manage all of these journals. Okay. Alright, just a little bit of information in terms of opportunity, okay, for our lecturers' information, for everyone here's information. We still have this 5,000 ringgit facilitation fee, meaning each lecturer can try and publish their papers in a Scopus Index journal, and if they have to pay, the university will be able to reimburse. Say for example, the fee to publish in a Scopus Index journal will cost you 1,200 ringgit. So we try to publish, we pay, and then we can claim from the university. Right? At the moment, I think the money is still there. I have not received any updated news if the money has been exhausted. Alright. So please try and publish. Of course you have to pay first, and then we can claim. So there are financial support for us to publish. Okay? That's the form. You can find it online because RMC will put all these forms on the website. Okay? Next. Alright. Another opportunity when it comes to research is the copywriting. Okay, a lot of our research sometimes would produce output, like materials. I come from the Department of English Language and Literature, so sometimes we design questions. When we conduct pre-tests and post-tests, so we design questions. So those questions can be copyrighted, meaning it's ours. yeah, and people cannot just use it for themselves. They have to, they have to ask for permission. Okay, so your lecturers should understand all this, and so we would like to encourage, those people who have research with products, quote unquote, where you can copyright, please register them. Yesterday we got one email from the copyright office. I believe this is under the library, that we have not hit the minimum number, right, for the university to fulfill the copyright number of copyright items in the university. So meaning we've not hit the Myra point successfully. So I'd like to encourage our lecturers here, okay, to apply for the copyright. Okay, it's not very difficult. The forms are quite straightforward. Okay. All right. Next, okay, other research opportunities. Okay, just now I talked about all the different agencies. Now, a lot of these agencies would come and collaborate with us with grants. Meaning the money is there for us. Of course, when we have to do research, we need the financial help. We need to pay our RA, we need to do stating, we need to buy materials. I am at the moment conducting one research with some children, undocumented children in Kuala Lumpur. In KL, we have many homeless kids or children with no documents, so they cannot go to school, to proper school. So what we do is we try to help them in terms of their education. Of course, because of my language background, I try to help them with English. So what we're doing is we are buying a language app from Finland, which is not very rigid like what we have in our Malaysian schools. So just to buy the apps, we will need to have some money. So that's very normal in research. So I try to contact agencies outside who can help us to fund the project. So what I've done is my team and I, we contacted our banner alumni. So many of our students who have graduated, they are doing very well, and they want to pay forward to the university. So they just contribute a sum of money based on the proposal that we have given. So you can do that as well. You can always get back to your network, right? People who may have graduated from this university, people who have the same interest that you do, but they have money. So we write proposals, right? See if they like the idea, because we want to help the community, and inshallah the money will come together with the opportunity given. All right. We have internal and external grants. Okay. In IIUM alone, we have some grants. I don't remember, my fingertips, all the different types of grants always updated. So please visit the website from time to time. Triple IT, for example, they always have grants for textbook writing. All right. So those of you who wish to write textbooks for your courses, the lecturers, you can always try and apply the grant from Triple IT. Of course, they would like to have a lot of the Islamization elements in the textbook as well. Okay. All right. And I would like to encourage everyone to have interdisciplinary projects. Right. Do not just focus on your own specific area of expertise, but be open to also, integrate with others from other disciplines as well, right? In terms of our points, our KPI points, it's always a good idea to network with others, not just from our university, but also from other universities and universities abroad. Okay, next. Yes, our Kulia also have what we call the Kulia Centers of Excellence. Alright, so these centers are actually their roles are actually to search, alright, or to venture into projects that can integrate, different disciplines. Okay, and we have at the moment we have 8, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 KCOEs. Okay. And I would just like to introduce you to those who are not aware. We have social mediation unit. This is newly established. Dr. Hasina, all right, our Deputy Dean of Postgraduate. We have Social Issues and Development Unit. This is from Dr. Sharifah Karima Soka, right? And then we also have Policy and Area Studies, Dr. Rabia from Political Science, right? And then Psychology Services Unit, Dr. Melinda, okay, Psychology Department. We have NOSI Research and Training Center. This is headed by Dr. Amila from Department of Research. Raising Dual Language Children. This is headed by Dr. Rabiato, my department. I'm also a member of the center. And then we have Center for Future Studies, Dr. Abdul Wahid from FACE. Okay. And another new center is also has also been established. Dr. Taufik is looking into the manuscript unit. The manuscript unit, I think this may interest you. We have manuscripts in ISTEC, right? In ISTEC library, just waiting to be explored. All right. So the library people have contacted us, telling us about all these manuscripts from the past, right? In ISTEC library, basically waiting to be researched, right? In other words, you already have your data, yeah. You just need to do something with the data, yeah. When we talk about manuscripts, these are things from yesteryears, yeah, things from the past. So there are always opportunities, right, for us to explore, yeah. So you can start contacting people in ISTEC library. You can contact Dr. Taufik, yeah, and get the research going. Okay. All right. All right. Another opportunity here for research, okay, is the postdoctoral fellowship. All right. For the postdoctoral fellowship, I think for our lecturers in the kuliah here, there are points where we supervise our postdoctoral fellows. Yeah. In fact, their requirement is to publish in 5 Scopus articles. Yeah, it sounds ambitious, right? But it's not impossible, right? Because the fellows, yeah, the postdoctoral fellows are already doctors, right? They've already, received their doctorate, and so now they are extending the research that they have done at their PhD level. So this is also another avenue for us academics. Yeah? It's not just meant for professors and associate professors, that even assistant professors can also supervise postdoctoral fellows. Yeah? Okay. Next, I think that's the last slide. Yes. All right. So that was just a little bit of my sharing, yeah, from the head of research office. All right. My office is together with Dr. Hasmina's postgraduate office. So feel free to drop by anytime if you have any questions or any queries. For the students, I would like to remind you, yeah, always feel, always feel excited, right? Always feel free, yeah, to talk to your lecturers about your research, yeah. Even at undergraduate level, you can already be directly involved in research. May I ask, at the Department of History, do you do a major project? Yes, alright. Is it a 1 semester thing or a 2 semester thing? 2. Okay, so you are basically writing a full-fledged thesis, yeah. Maybe for your FYP, your supervisor is asking you to come up with 2 or 3 research questions. Alright? Now for each research question, you can actually produce 1 article. You can easily produce 1 article. And when I say article, this is the article for publication. Alright? So final year students, if you can produce a thesis or your FYP, and then also at the same time publish an article, these are important tickets for you when you want to apply to do your masters. Alright, when you apply to do your masters, you will write in your CV that you have published, that you have done research, you have written a thesis. Alright, these are good credentials for you. Yeah, so work together, work closely with your supervisors. Alright, inshallah. Yeah. This for our journeys and our affair, right? Okay, I think I've taken too much time already. If there are any questions, you can always email to me. Yeah, I'm sure Dr. Hamid is also very helpful with the department. thank you again. Yeah, thank you again so much for inviting me to your SAP. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Doctor, for the speech just now. Now, without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Ismail Omar to present his research on mass misconception about Islamic architecture, the role of nature features written. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's very cold. I'm not taking my jacket. Okay, Dr. Aino, you are the representative, regardless of what you think. Representatives of the Kuliya, Dr. Hilmi, you are our HED, my colleagues, and of course, the brothers and sisters, postgraduate and undergraduate. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yeah, my topic is about misconceptions in Islamic architecture, the role of Richard Francis Burton. As we can glean from the title, there are two dimensions here. Number one is Islamic architecture. Number two, misconceptions. And number three, a man called Burton. Okay, Richard Francis Burton is an Orientalist, but more than that. He was a naughty Orientalist. He was a bad guy. He was an Orientalist, but that was a big code. He actually was a spy. He was a spy. Of course, he was a scholar. He was so many things, but the truth of the matter is he was a spy. Somebody described him as a vulgar Orientalist. You can simply say he was a vulgar. He was part of a growing phenomenon, which is non-Muslims secretly visiting Mecca and Medina. It was not secret that they visited Muslim world, like they could go to Cairo, they could go to Egypt, they could go to Istanbul, they could go to Iran, Isfahan, anywhere in the Muslim world, but the issue was visiting Mecca and Medina. As the editor of his book, a personal narrative of a pilgrimage to Mecca and Medina, his wife, Elizabeth Burton, said that these places were guarded like a holy grail, Mecca and Medina, as far as non-Muslims were concerned. So it was a challenge how to penetrate these lands and visit them. So anyway, he was one of them, part of the growing phenomenon. The first time, by the way, the first non-Muslim who visited secretly Mecca and Medina was Ludovico di Matema, an Italian guy followed by Leblanc from French, and then you got Joseph Priest from England, you got Ali El Abbasi from Spain, and goes on and on and on until you come to Burton, secretly visiting Mecca and Medina and writing about what they have seen. And this was this is part of a phenomenon. All this phenomenon was yet part of a bigger phenomenon. You see, these were the most direct contacts between the Muslim and non-Muslim worlds. And this was a time when all these misconceptions, not only about Islamic architecture, but about Islam and Muslims in general, were created, amplified, and cemented once and for all. For example, it's not surprising that Burton himself was a translator of the famous work, which is a compendium of misconceptions about Islam and Muslims, 1001 Nights. Alf Layla wa Layla, we heard about this, 1000 Nights and One Night, or 1001 Nights. He actually was the second person who translated it into English in 1885. The first translation was in 1882, and being a naughty person, he actually was accused of plagiarism. That he plagiarized a lot the first translation into English. So this was a time when East was meeting West, but under different circumstances. So he came to Egypt first in 1853, on the way to Mecca and Medina. And Egypt, as we know, even today, is the capital of Islamic culture, Islamic civilization. Egypt was never destroyed by any force, unlike the eastern part of the Muslim empire, unlike Andalusia. Cairo, together with Istanbul, are today really the capitals of the history of Islamic culture and civilization. If you want to go and witness traces of any phase of the evolution of Islamic culture and civilization, this is the place to go. Go to Egypt, go to Cairo. Istanbul is rich as well, but Istanbul is somehow one-dimensional when it comes to architecture, when it comes to art. But when you go to Cairo, it's all there. Sometimes we like to say, you'll find there everything from pyramids to Hilton, right? Yeah, and everything in between, right? Not just every phase of Islamic civilization, but also other phases of human history, right? Human civilization, from pyramids to, skyscrapers and Hilton, everything is there. So normally, these people, and he was a specimen, would come to Egypt, to Cairo, to acclimatize themselves. Because Cairo was a cosmopolitan place, open to non-Muslims, because nothing unusual for a non-Muslim to go to Cairo in the 19th century, especially after the reign of Muhammad Ali, when the modernization was not really at its peak, but it was very much underway. So it was very normal. They actually were invited to come. So they would come to Cairo to acclimatize themselves, to learn Arabic, to learn about Islam, before they said, when you go to Mecca and Medina and they discover you are non-Muslim, you are finished. That's what he underlined a few times when he was writing. Like if they discover you in Mecca and Medina, which makes sense. Mecca and Medina is not accessible to non-Muslims. And if you go in disguise as a non-Muslim and they discover you, that's it. No more history. So you have to memorize things, you have to know Arabic, you have to pray, you have to do all this. And he performed Hajj. He came into Mecca and Medina, same in 1853, from Cairo to the Holy Land, the Hijaz, and then he went back and produced this book, a personal account of a narrative personal pilgrimage to Mecca and Medina. In the process, Burton emphasized so much the concept and phenomenon of Islamic art and architecture. And this was that meeting point of East and West, but with regard to something else. You know that architecture is a mirror of a civilization. It's a manifestation. You want to study somebody's civilization, it would suffice to focus on architecture. You can read architecture and at the same time you are reading the total body of civilization. It's the mirror, it's an open book. So that's what he did. He was very much obsessed about Islamic civilization, Islamic culture, of course, from their own perspectives. It's not for the sake of knowing what Islam is, it's actually knowing what Islam is as far as they were concerned. And this is 19th century, this was the colonization period, and at the same time, civilization mission period as far as this relationship was concerned. And he was a spy, he was a soldier actually, he was a soldier, he came from India, which was under British. He was a British guy, and he came as a spy, as a soldier. And he actually came to the Muslim world to explore the possibility of future colonization of these lands, especially Egypt. So he, when he was departing from Egypt, he said, Egypt is a prize to be won. And just how many years ago, Napoleon was in Egypt, failed, he returned. British was always there, circling, probing how it's possible maybe to colonize Egypt. So he himself describes Egypt as a prize to be won. This is the language of a spy, right? This is the language of a military officer. A prize to be won. And then he said, lucky and fortunate is a European power that will eventually capture Egypt. So just a matter of time. Napoleon started, failed, now British is all over the place. So lucky is the European power which will capture this prize. He doesn't care actually about Islam, he doesn't care about Muslims, right? But this is just a part of the strategy to find out the ways how to penetrate from all fronts and eventually capture the country. So I studied so much Islamic architecture. And now again, Islamic architecture is the mirror of a civilization. Now, Islamic architecture is not what other architectural styles are. And that was the source of misconceptions. They studied Islamic art, Islamic architecture from the perspective of Western art and Western architecture. And this is a recipe of disaster insofar as scholarship is concerned. For example, just to begin with, and perhaps thereby summarize the whole thing. As far as Western art and architecture is concerned, it's a humanistic art, humanistic architecture, it's man-oriented. Whereas Islamic art and Islamic architecture is a totally different thing. It's not a humanistic civilization. It's not man-oriented, it's God-oriented. In the West, through architecture and art, man is glorified. But in Islamic art and architecture, God is glorified. Sometimes we like to say, look, Muslims dominated the scene of art and architecture for more than a millennium. How many architects do we know? A couple. A few of them. Why? Because architects were not the goal. It was something else. So anyway, when a Westerner comes and is confronted with this reality, misconceptions are inevitable. So one of the things, for example, that Burton originated and elevated to a higher level was what he called lawlessness. Lawlessness, right? He said Islamic architecture is a home of lawlessness. There are no laws, there are no principles, there is no symmetry, there is no order. It's chaos. That's one of the most widely spread misconception about Islamic architecture, even today. But actually the issue is this. Yes, when you look at the pieces, even our masjids, don't look at this building, in this hall. Our masjids, for example, when you look at the masterpieces of Islamic art and architecture, you see that very often whole surfaces are completely covered with decorative patterns. So much so, as Ibn Khaldun once beautifully said, a wall looks like a carpet. You know carpet, right? When you look at the carpet, then you look at the ceiling, they look the same. And then you look at the dome, the interior of the dome, they look the same. So they couldn't comprehend this. But actually the issue here is, as I said earlier, it's not about glorifying man, it's about glorifying God. So when Muslims embark on completely covering surfaces with decorations, with calligraphy, with statements that evoke the greatness of God, actually they wanted to camouflage the effects of human interferences in space and redirect observers' attention towards glorifying God rather than man. That's why when you look at a masterpiece that is meant to glorify man, the first thing you say like, wow, who made this? Right? But when you look at a beautiful masterpiece of Islamic art and architecture, you look at it and say, well, you still say, wow, but then you say, oh my God, subhanAllah. You know, you start reading the calligraphy, and you start relating the message of calligraphy to the very space you are standing in and the function of that very space. So they couldn't understand this one, so it was like lawlessness. Yeah, this is the term. He coined it and it became very widespread nowadays. And this is one of the greatest misconceptions about architecture in general. So lawlessness. Then the second thing, just to expedite, we have this idea of plagiarism. I just used it when we translated 1001 night. Plagiarism. They'll say in Islamic architecture there is no originality. Muslims plagiarized from others, especially Byzantium. And this is nothing new. From the moment the West started meeting East, they kept accusing Muslims of plagiarism, even when it comes to Islam. You know, Islam is, we like to say, the last version of Islam. You know, the Prophet Adam was given Islam, right? And every prophet was Muslim, and every prophet was given Islam, right? Islam. And then whenever those teachings have been corrupted, distorted, Allah will send the Prophet, right? To revive the corrupted teachings and set the stage for future. Then it goes on and on and on. Then we have Nabi Isa, right? We have Musa. Then we have Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who cleansed all this intellectual garbage insofar as religion is concerned, purified, set the record straight, and then move forward. That's why you see Bible speaks about Moses, Quran speaks about Moses or Musa, right? Bible speaks about Noah, we speak about Noah, right? You see, the same things. Why? Because all these teachings have been distorted, right? There is no truth. It's man tempered with all this, right? So Quran came and set the record straight. This is what the truth is insofar as the history is concerned. That's why, by the way, when we speak in history, students are here, we always say Quran is the ultimate source of history. Neither primary nor secondary, but the ultimate source of history. Then we move forward. So they kept accusing Muslims from the moment John of Damascus started to write as the first Westerner about Islam. And then we have Ricoldo, and then we have even Martin Luther, when they started writing about Islam. The key accusation level against us was plagiarism. Why? Because we had Isa, they had Isa, Musa, and so on and so forth. And the same thing extended to architecture. Muslims plagiarized. Why? Because very quickly after the death of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, Muslims and Islamic civilization trend out from Arabia and came to the lands which were controlled by Roman Empire, by Byzantium. And it was very normal that Muslims adopted the same building styles. This is very normal, this is natural. But little did they pay attention to the fact that these styles were, as we like to call, actually Islamized. The very styles were Islamized. Why? They were no longer humanistic, but God-oriented. And secondly, the functions of those buildings have been tuned up now to the requirements of this new religion. So we simply call it this Islamization of architecture. But to them, this is a plagiarization. So, and that's what he kind of emphasized. And furthermore, he spoke about, as I said, very vulgar. You know, he used some inappropriate words for saying the whole thing. So, for example, you know, when he was in Cairo, we have Masjid al-Azhar, which is actually a masterpiece for him who understands the beauty of Islamic art and architecture. Then we have Husainiya, if you know, if you're familiar. Husainiya is a mosque where allegedly the head of Hussein, the grandchild of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, had been buried. So you have these two masterpieces, Azhar and Husainiya. So he will say, these two mosques, Azhar and Husainiya, despite their sanctity, they are kind of holy places, right? They are nothing but a pile of nonsenses, ugliness. So it's a statement, even if you're right, as a scholar, you would actually lose. Then when he moved to Mecca, Medina himself, he was criticizing the mosque of the Prophet himself, which was just completed by Ottoman Sultan Abdul Majid, that the renovation under Ottoman, it was completed. So when he came, he again talked so much against it, applying all these ideas that he came up with. And the same goes to the mosques in Cairo. And just, this is the last point, he was a bit, now, despite everything I've said, a bit right. Again, he came after, a few years after Muhammad Ali had passed away, not Muhammad Ali, the boxer, Muhammad Ali, the reformer in Egypt. Reformer, and these reforms influenced the realm of architecture as well. Now, these efforts were quite new. In Europe, in the West, the styles of Baroque and Rococo were at the peak. Now, Muslims started slowly importing these styles as well. And this importation was not so professional, was a bit raw, was a bit unrefined, uncultivated, you know. So it wasn't really pretty all the time. So when he came, he was kind of shocked because despite everything, you know, this Baroque and Rococo style in art and architecture are a bit beautiful. They are beautiful, notwithstanding, you know, the fact that they are from West Europe, doesn't matter. They are actually also not just beautiful, sometimes awesomely beautiful. They blew you away. So when he came, first he found the mosque of Muhammad Ali, the same Muhammad Ali, right? Muhammad Ali in Cairo. And then he came to Medina. When you go to Hajj, when you go to Umrah, observe that oldest part of the Prophet's mosque, where you have a Prophet's Mimbar, where you have a Rawda, where you have Prophet's grave, which is that Ottoman, preserved as built by this Ottoman Sultan Abdul Majid. You will see that these places, the first one is in Medina, Prophet's Mosque, and the second one, Muhammad Ali's Mosque in Cairo. They tried to follow the principles of Baroque style of Europe. And since they were at the beginning, you know, this is the first phase, they were not really perfectly executed, and he capitalize on this and to simply say these places are ugly. These places are ugly replicas of these European sites. But anyway, to sum it up, all these statements of his as part of his travelogue about his visits in Cairo and Egypt, others picked up because that was 19th century Europeans didn't come to Europe. Sorry, they didn't come to Muslim lands. So what these visitors brought them from Muslim lands, they use as references. So they serve as a launching pad for amplifying as well as cementing all these misconceptions about Islamic Muslims in general and about Islamic attachment in general. And just to the last sentence. For example, look how it worked. The first and second visitors to the Muslim, to the Holy Lands, Mecca, Medina, Fatima, and Lebanon, imagine they wrote, and still there is discussion going on in the West. They wrote, when I was in Mecca, I saw unicorn next to the Kaaba. Exactly, huh? Yeah, exactly. But anyway, this is see, for European, this was the only reference about Mecca and Medina. I saw a unicorn next to the Kaaba. Unicorn, it's a fairy tale stuff. But can you imagine how easy things work? And then this guy, second guy came and said, also when I came, I also saw a unicorn next to the Kaaba. And actually, you know, this second guy, LeBlanc, you told that, you can tell him actually intellectually, shut up, you never went to Mecca and Medina. And actually, he plagiarized completely the Fatima. That's why he talked about unicorns as well. And they also talked about Prophet's Masjid. His grave, his coffin being suspended in the air. So when Burton came to visit Prophet's mosque, he said, I looked very hard to see where is the coffin. And then he said, please, once and for all, there is no coffin hanging. I mean, just to give you a sample of how things work, misconception, misunderstanding, because it's 18th, 19th century Europe, you don't have access to references except 1, 2, 3, 4, like these people, and they come with books loaded with misconceptions, with misunderstandings, and this only, instead of bringing East and West together, actually separate them further and further, the consequences of which are still felt to me. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair. That's it. Oh. Yeah.
You guys have any question? Yes.
Yes, simple question. Did he have initiation?
Sheikh, okay, he came as he projected himself as a Sufi from Iran, from Persia, Sufi, and also doctor. Because you know why doctor? Because there were no doctors in Mecca and Medina in the 18th century. No doctors. So he could easily say, I'm a doctor. The name is somewhere there, I cannot recall. I'll find it for you. I'll pass it to you. Yeah, of course, they had a Muslim name. They had to have name, even the faith, your background, how you know this Islam, and then you speak Arabic. Of course, if you are coming from somewhere, you pray. They used to say they tag that you are praying in a wrong way, that they trigger suspicion. And then like, what's your name, blah, blah, and you're in trouble. He had a name, I forgot.
So how does the same method like Auditorium?
Exactly. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Any participants? So I think no. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Now we'll proceed to the next research topic, which will be presented by Dr. Harmi with the title Orang Ramai Becoming Masyarakat, the historical emergence of the relations of society and the social in early 20th century Maya.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I admire the spontaneity of Dr. Shahid. I regret that I had to rely on slides. Okay, I also regret that my title is rather long, but yeah. As you can see, this is the title, but actually what I want to say is just I think that there was no masyarakat prior to the 20th century, why did emerge in the 20th century. Not just masyarakat, but the sense of the social as a condition or as a domain of life. Of course, this might sound like something that gives common sense because we naturally think that we live in society, yeah? And we normally think that people in the past also live in society. But what I'm going to show today is this sense of collective life or society, the social, or this sense of being with others is a relatively new sense of being with others. And actually, I have been inspired by studies on the concept of society, on the history of the concept of society, that have been conducted by many historians actually, but on other cultures. Okay. You can find it has been discussed by Western historians on European history or European concept of society, English concept of society. We have, for instance, Patrick Joyce in his book, The Self and the Social, says that the age before the Victorian age is the age before the social. So it was during the Victorian period that the social started to develop as a sense of being as a collective life. I think there are many other historians who also dealing with studying other cultures and the development of the concept. The one on, I think, Arab intellectual culture. Florence Zenin talks about the emergence of the modern concept mujtama, which is basically in society. So please correct me because I don't have first-hand knowledge of Arabic. So my knowledge of this is based on the secondary sources. Okay, and Al-Asa also mentioned the same thing. So of course, mujtama in classical Arabic, according to them, the word had already been used by classical writers, like and something like place of gathering or assembly. By 1930s, it started to acquire the modern meaning, which is society. And there are also studies on the concept of society in modern China and Japan. So what I find lacking in our historiography is therefore these are social issues, social problems But according to Matheson, this is our language, social issues. But until the 1940s, the concept of society, as we interpret it, was not widely understood in Malaya. Although the writers present issues in their narrative in the context of a changing Malay world and are concerned with individuals as human beings, only gradually is the word masyarakat, the word now used for society, used consistently for that word. So it was a gradual process that they slowly started to use the language, but it was not widely used. Even the 30s, only few writers use it. I will show you. But now the question is, what do they mean when they use it? That's very important, because we are not here only after the word. We are also interested in the concept. So so we can see, like, people, Mathesons and others, like Milner, they are very aware of the historicity of the concept, but they have been no basically serious or systematic study on the history of society as a concept, or masyarakat. I'm sorry, I have to use that word. I don't want to translate it. So I want to keep it as it is, if possible. If you can you move to the next slide. If you look at Malay English dictionaries that were published in the 19th century, they were translation of society from English into Bahasa. One of the earliest is Marsden, but they were even earlier dictionaries than Marsden. But I think we can start with Marsden's. 1819. You can see here he translated society into Bahasa as kerabatan or himpunan, assembly, something like that. And even 100 years after that, which was in 1916, they still have this very narrow and complete meaning of society as Persekutuan, Kongsi, and there was no mention of masyarakat. If you refer to dictionary, you will get masyarakat straight away, for sure. No problem. So it seems that the word was not available to them at the time, so they had to use these terms. But one thing that I need to mention is that even in the English language, now what I mean by society, I'm concerned about the concept of society that is the abstract one, that is an aggregate of people living in a gathering, like, is it Asian society, in this abstract big concepts. There are many other meanings as well, right? They would carry other meanings as well, like associations of people, society of cyclists or cycling society, something like that. So that's not what I mean here. I'm very concerned about that very abstract meaning, the generic meaning that we normally use when we talk about, a group of people, maybe sharing the same culture, living in territory. So that abstract meaning, it took time to develop, even in the English language. It only acquired that meaning in the 19th century, in the British language. So if you go and refer to English dictionary in the 17th century, the word society was used to mean something like this: companionship, fellowship. People who form a group for a particular purpose. Companionship of the ring, fellowship of the ring, and the loss of the ring. An objective, right? Go and find a ring. So it's for a particular purpose. So they do not yet have that, abstract concept that they use now for society. Now, where did it come from? The English word, of course, from Latin societas, which simply means companionship. So again, it's very concrete and refers to like very specific grouping, like small group. This is from the same dictionary, Shalder. The social, when they were trying to translate the social into Bahasa sometime, of course, again, when masyarakat was not available, the best possible option is perhaps just to use orang ramai, that's it, okay? So you find it is an adjective, okay, social. So it's but orang ramai is not an adjective. So I don't quite get it why you use it, but maybe that's the best way the closest. But then you have also translation of social science as ilmu menyempurnakan hal orang ramai. Today social science is science of masyarakat. You can just use masyarakat. Now, I think as a concept, I think it has its seats. Because we are talking about concept, so we do not want to follow strictly the word, because the same concept can originate in a different word. What I mean is, you can express the same concept using different words, like you express the concept of mother using the word ibu, ma, whatever. But what is important is the idea, is the concept. I think masyarakat, orang ramai is for me is like the conceptual predecessor of masyarakat. That means before we have the concept of masyarakat, one way of thinking about something like society today is by simply using the word orang ramai, but it's not exactly the same. I will detail out the differences. So you have, of course, orang ramai can mean crowd, like which is very concrete, crowd. Yes, but to see a very classical text, orang ramai simply a crowd gathering in a place. But by the early 20th century, you started to see the more abstract usage of orang ramai, which is, something equivalent to what we now call public or people in general. And this is abstract in the sense that you cannot, point it with your index finger. Like a crowd, you can point it with your finger. So like this abstract orang ramai is like just people and the public in general. And not only that, this abstraction that was developing also in the early 20th century also generated the force of public opinion and judgment. Like this orang ramai has the tendency to pass their judgment or thinking about what is good and what is bad. But this is not any orang ramai, not any crowd. This is people in general, abstract. Or the public people, the public that is closed. So this was in the time when, of course, when you had the publications of Malay periodicals, many of them. Of course, the audience was different from the time of the classical text, okay, and they were commenting on many what we can now call social issues, about getting a job, about education. So all this actually, you can see the usage of orang ramai as a public that can pass judgments on you, and like here is from Saudara on 8 March 1933. The issue is on whether unmarried woman or girl or widow should get a salaried job, paid job. It was something that maybe it was a controversial thing at the time. So perhaps so the society used that word today, but the public maybe was not really in favor of that. And the author was saying that why are you so afraid of doing those jobs? You are afraid of the pressure of the public judgment, so on, so that would be pandang orang ramai. So, but this is not orang ramai in a concrete sense, but in the abstract. So can you move to the next slide? But the abstraction is a bit explicit. You cannot It's not like a graph, actually. Yeah, can we move? Yeah. So one of the reasons why we have again this abstract orang ramai is because again we can draw the connection with the literary public sphere at the time when many people were exchanging their ideas in the public sphere through their writings. So it indirectly creates a sense that what they call it, there is this orang ramai, but without a place. But if there is a place, as this author say, it is in the magazines, in the newspaper. Metaphorically, this orang ramai, they exist by the virtues of their thoughts, opinions on issues, and that's how you feel their presence meaningfully, as like a force that is forcing their opinions and thinking and their views on you. So what is essential here is what at that time is these communication and interactions that they were having. This communication and interaction was the platform for this abstract orang ramai to operate as a meaningful force. Now, why do I highlight this thing? Because this is related to the early sense of the social. Communication and interactions is what is essential about the early experience of the social. Can you move to the next slide? Okay, if you look at this one, you can see the author is trying to define what is social. This is one of the earliest, I think you can find Malay definitions. I'm not sure if you can find earlier than this. Maybe you can find earlier one. But this is, for me, the oldest one, earliest one. Where the author is trying to tell his audience, his readers, what is social. Okay. Social is a familiar word today, right? As an adjective. So we talk about many social things, social issues, social problem, social justice. But you remember, at this stage, they were still at the early stage where the word was still an alien word. They are still in the process of adapting that word from the English language. And what is he saying here? Kita sebut pergaulan iaitu dengan makna yang luas. Kita ambil daripada pengertian perkataan sosial dalam bahasa orang putih. Adapun sosial ini iaitu pergaulan yang berdasar dengan sifat kemanusiaan, iaitu pandangan sama rata di antara bangsa atau internasional. Sifat sosial atau pergaulan ini bersedia membukakan pintunya kepada faedah bekerjasama yang tidak bernasab pada satu bangsa atau satu negeri, melainkan kepada dengan dasar kemanusiaan yang berkehendak hidup bersama di atas alam dunia ini. Now, I think there are some keywords here, but one of which is pergaulan. Even the title of the article, the editorial article is pergaulan. It's pergaulan. But this is again not just about pergaulan. This is also about those who participate in the pergaulan. They are ideally seen as equals. They are ideally seen as equals. So you can imagine that the sphere of the social as engaging here is like there is a platform where you can have an exchange of discussion, ideas, or whatever, interactions. And you imagine that everyone who is participating before this period, like maybe before the 19th century, were the people before the 19th century, did they see their life disintegrated or fragmented in such a way where you can have like 3 different domains like this? What do you think? Of course, the concept was not available to them, so they did not see it that way. I think this is something that has been explained by some historians, and this is not just unique to Yeah. In Indonesia, of course, masyarakat as well. Yeah, I think it happened around the same time. I think, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. So any other questions? If you guys have any questions, you can just write on your paper and you can pass to our committee and I will read it for you. Okay, maybe for the next presentation. Okay, maybe for the next presentation.
Thank
So
you.
now I want to explain now I want to explain how the presentation value is evidence research on the observer consults in Auditorium in 1882 to 1924.
Colleagues and students, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya nak Dr. Hemi langsung di slide. But I will try to make it very brief. Yeah. Okay. So this is actually part of my research with Dr. Alai, our former PhD students here. Now I'm teaching in Turkey. We have published an article and one book chapter will coming, but the focus not exactly this one. But during the process of research, alhamdulillah, I can make a complete construction of the Ottoman consulate in Batavia from 1882 to 1934. Okay, please continue. So it started in the middle of the 19th century, which actually I still have some questions regarding this research. I mean, it's still not very clear for me why it started during this period. It seems this is the trend at that time. Yeah, the Ottomans started to open some consulates in several places, including not only in European countries but also in the colonies of European countries, like in India. Yeah, it is opened in 1849. Yeah, and also several years after that in Singapore. And then after that in Batavia. In Singapore actually earlier than Batavia. But interestingly, in Singapore not continued. After the first consul, and the consul not sent by the Ottoman directly, yeah, from Istanbul, for example, or from the other consulate, but from the local leader. Yeah, local Hadrami. Yeah. Only 1 year, and he passed away. And after that, no more formal consul appointed in Singapore. But we have informal. Yeah, try to be appointed and considered by the society as an Ottoman consul in Singapore. Only in the beginning of 20th century. Another former and now sent by appointed and sent by the Ottoman to come to Singapore and to lead the consulate in Singapore in the beginning of 20th century. Yeah. So this is what happened in Singapore. But what happened in Singapore also closely related to the development in Batavia, because Singapore and Batavia are very close. Yeah. And the consulate also closely related with the Hadrami community. This is true for Singapore and also for the Netherlands East Indies or the Dutch East Indies, Batavia. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so the British itself actually quite reluctant with the opening of this consulate, yeah. And especially the Dutch, yeah, Dutch even more reluctant. Why? Because the consulate, when it is opened in Singapore, the consulate in Singapore became the place for the Muslims in the region, especially the Hadrami community, to express their concern, yeah, their critics against the colonial government, especially the Dutch colonial government. Because at that time, the the Hadrami had a situation, yeah, they felt treated unjustly by the colonial government, and because of that, they tried to find a channel to change their situation, yeah, and they found this through the idea of Islamism. So we can see here actually the opening of the consulate in Batavia and also in Singapore has a relationship with the idea of Islamism and also the role of the Hadrami community. But of course, after that, not only the Hadrami community in Batavia and the other region in Indonesia, also in Singapore, that involved or has communication with the Turkish consulate, but also some local Muslims also they have communication with the consulate. So the Dutch especially had a very high concern with the consulate because they saw the consulate become the place or the center in which some people, some of what they consider as the subjects in Batavia and in the Netherlands is Indies, they how they used to criticize the Dutch government in Singapore. So because of that, the Dutch asked the British not to continue, not to let the Ottoman to open the consulate in Singapore, and the British agree with that. Because of that, after the first honorary consul passed away, they didn't allow the Ottoman to open the next consul. So the Dutch felt uneasy because the consulate was used by the local Hadramis to attack the Dutch government again and again. Yeah? Not directly through the consuls, but through the networks, yeah, Islamic networks, through the magazines, yeah, that published in the Middle East, yeah, also in Istanbul, yeah, and also with some other activities, yeah, activities related to the Muslim situation including what happened in Aceh, for example, when the Dutch decided to attack Aceh, yeah, to invade Aceh. So some people from Aceh also try to communicate this, try to get the support from Istanbul, for example, and some of the networks, Muslim networks, including the Hadramis, yeah, including the consuls or those who considered as consuls involved in this situation. They try to communicate, they try to ask the Ottoman to be involved, yeah, to stop the Dutch from attacking Aceh, for example. So this is why the opening of the consulate became a serious concern of the Dutch. The Dutch didn't like to have this in the region. But the Dutch itself finally had to accept, yeah, to open. The Ottoman asked to open Ottoman consulate in Batavia, again and again. The Dutch tried to stop, didn't want to. But at the end, it had to agree with the opening of a consulate starting from 1882 or maybe we can say 1883, because the first consul actually finally not approved by the Dutch colonial government. And since then, Batavia had always consuls, Turkish consul or Ottoman consuls, until the end of the Ottoman period, until 1924. Yeah, so it's a bit different compared to Singapore. Singapore actually earlier, but after that, we can say no formal consul, yeah, for quite a long time. But in Batavia, since 1882, 1883, until 1924, it continued to have consuls. Yeah, the consulate continued, yeah, until the end of the Ottoman Empire, which is quite interesting because since the beginning, actually, the Dutch didn't like and didn't want to accept this, but it finally accepted because it's afraid of the retaliation of the Ottoman for its own consulate in Jeddah. Because Hijaz at that time under the Ottoman, and the Dutch colonial government had a consulate in Jeddah to help the pilgrims. Yeah, we have a lot of pilgrims from this part of the world, and they went. Sorry, they went with European ships, and they would arrive in Jeddah, and the consulate arranged everything. Yeah. So they're afraid if they continue to reject the request of the Ottoman government to open consulate in Batavia, maybe at the end the Ottoman government wouldn't allow their own consulate in Jeddah to continue to the service. Yeah. Okay. Okay, just continue. Continue again. I will show later on. Okay, go back. Okay, this is actually the house of the first Turkish consul in Batavia. Now it becomes textile museum. Yeah, in Jakarta, if you visit Jakarta, yeah, Petamburan, so it now become museum. So the building still there. But the first consul, Said Abdul Aziz, actually not someone sent from Istanbul as a consul. He was actually he was an Arab. He's a Baghdadi, usually mentioned in several sources as Sayyid Abdul Aziz al-Baghdadi. Yeah, means that he came from Baghdad, but he was already settled in Batavia. He was a trader, yeah, and already settled in Jakarta. He married to, according to the story from the family, he married to local women, Japanese women, and one of his daughter married to a Hadrami. So he was close to the Hadrami community as well, despite the fact that he's not from Hadrami. But he already settled in Indonesia, in the Dutch East Indies. And maybe because of the network, he was appointed by the Ottoman government as the first consul in Batavia. But it was in 1882. But at the end of that year, the Dutch decided not to approve the appointment. Yeah. So he was not, his appointment not approved by the Ottoman, but not approved by the Dutch colonial government. But he was known as, even until today, when someone visited the building, it is mentioned that he was former Ottoman consul. So soon after that, in the next year, the Ottoman decided to appoint someone and send directly from Istanbul. Of course, I don't mean that it must come from Istanbul, but someone from the government, maybe previously a consul or working in certain consulate in Europe or other places, to be sent to as a consul in Batavia. Yeah. The next consul will be Ali Galib Bey. Yeah. What is interesting, the reason that given by the Ottoman regarding the opening of consulate actually relate to the issue of citizenship. So here there was mutual cooperation between the Hadrami community and also the Ottoman. The Hadrami community expecting the opening of this consulate, and they consider themselves as the citizen of part of Ottoman citizen because they were from Hadramaut, and Hadramaut at that time, Yemen at least controlled by the Ottoman. Yeah. Hadramaut sometimes controlled under the control of Ottoman, but not in practice actually. But they want to be considered as part of the Ottoman citizen. Why? Not because they don't want to assimilate with the local people, but because of the, we can say, racist colonial policy, yeah, in Indonesia at that time, that separate society into three categories. The highest one is the European, the second one is foreign Orientals, including the Arab community, and the last one is the natives. And at that time, for foreign Orientals, they have to live in certain district, and to go out from the district, if they want to go somewhere else outside the district, for the Arab, they call it Kampung Arab, the Chinese, Kampung Chinatown, yeah, now generally known. So if they want to go out from the district, they have to issue a kind of passport. Even from Batavia, for example, if they want to go to Bogor, yeah, only with train only less than 2 hours, maybe only 2 hours. But sometimes they have to wait until tomorrow to receive the pass, yeah, to allow them to go. So this creates trouble for them because they are mostly traders. And because of that, they again and again complain to the colonial government because of their treatment. And they, because of the situation, they want to be equalized with the European. But of course not in the sense to be, please know, Budronya talk about this again and again in his advice in his letters to the colonial government. Actually, they didn't want to be really the same with the European. That's not the issue. But they really in trouble because of that situation. So they want to be equalized with the European. So they ask to be considered, to be admitted as the member or the citizen of the Ottoman because of that. So if we are considered Ottoman, Turkish people, so we are equal to you. We don't need to produce those pass, yeah, to go here and there. And the Ottoman also had interest with this because, at that time they are in decline. They need the support of the Muslim society. There was the idea of pan-Islamism to strengthen themselves. So they are coming, yeah, opening this consulate, and it is clearly mentioned that the Hadrami community actually part of the Ottoman society, and they have to be equalized. So they come with this, statement, regarding the Hadrami community. But soon after that, actually, even the Ottoman consuls, many of them, not only, it's very fast, not only to pay attention to the Hadrami community, but to the Muslims in general. Like, for example, can go back? Can go back? Yes. Okay, this one. So, alhamdulillah, so far, based on mostly based on Dutch newspapers, I can make a complete list of Dutch consuls in Batavia. The second one, Galilee. For example, Snot accused Galilee because he behaved as if the Ottoman is the government for the whole Muslims. Of course, this is generally understood as the Muslim as such. Many Muslims also at that time they consider themselves as part of the Muslim world. They are one ummah, isn't it? So it is said that Galilee sometimes met with the pilgrims. When pilgrims came back, sometimes meet, so not necessarily Hadramis, any Muslims from Batavia or the other part of Indonesia. So he asked about the service they got in the European ships, about the service they got in Jeddah. Is it okay or not? Do you have a certain injustice happen to you, for example, something like that? And this really irritated the Dutch colonial government. Why you do something like that? And then he also inquired previously, actually, in 1883, not long before, or around that period, a big report happened in Banten. So he also inquired some people in Banten what actually happened in the region, why they have certain protests against the colonial government and so on. So this also happened to the other to the other consuls. So sorry, because of time, I cannot explain one by one about the consul, but I just want to highlight of these consuls, one of the most controversial according to the colonial government actually Kiamil Bey, because he had several programs that really the colonial government didn't like, and the one that served very long actually Record Bey is the last one. He served from 1911 until the end of the period. Okay. Continue. Next. Okay, this is some of the activities. I already mentioned the first one. In certain period, certain consuls also distribute the Quran to the Muslim people. Again, not only the Hadrami, but also the Muslim people in general, which mentioned clearly that this is the present from the Caliph, the Turkish Sultan. Also responding or listening to the complaint by the Muslim people about the treatment of colonial government. Record Bey, for example, received letters from Haji Entong Gendut in Batavia because of they revolted people in Condet, yeah, part of Batavia, they revolted against the injustice treatment of landlord, yeah, colonial landlord, Dutch landlord. They also sending some Hadromi children from Batavia and Bogor, yeah, to study in Istanbul at the end of the 19th century. And it is known actually in Istanbul as students from Java. But actually most of them, all of them actually Hadromi children. Later on also they start, sometimes they open bazaar, because this is the pressure of the Dutch colonial government. The function of the consulate, the Dutch agreed with the opening of consulate, but the function is not politics, it is for trade, to create commercial activities. Yeah. Later on, the consulate also have this, try to do something related to this. Yeah. And then later on, collecting money for Hijas Railway, yeah, from the local society, supporting Red Crescent Society. We also opened Al-Hilal Al-Ahmar, yeah, Red Crescent Society, as a branch of Hilal Ahmar in Istanbul. So we collect money to support during Balkan War and during the First World War. Yeah, this is some of the activities. I think, okay, just continue. Just want to show picture. Yeah, this is an example from the magazine. 2 of the children, totally 17 children in 3 waves. In 1895, and then 1898 and then 1899. After that, there was a plan to send 30 students, but no more news about this. Most probably they were not sent because of problem of money, because of some other problems. So the program not continue. Unfortunately, also most of the students studied outside. They didn't come back with significant contribution actually. Yeah. But at least 2 of them, these 2, yeah, Said and Ahmad Bajunaid, yeah, they're from Bogor. They were involved in the establishment of Syarikat Dagang Islam in 1909 with Tirto Auditorium. Yeah. That this Syarikat Dagang Islam later on would develop into Syarikat Islam. But when it developed into Syarikat Islam, these 2 brothers themselves didn't involve, but other Hadromis will involve. I think because of time, okay, the last part. I think the end of the consulate. Yeah. Of course, as I mentioned before, the consulate actually become a hub, an expectation for both for the Ottoman and also the local communities, the Hadromis and local Muslims, to cooperate, yeah, to unite themselves, to strengthen themselves. But unfortunately, as we know in history, at the end, the Ottoman itself continued to decline and ended at the end. So this is also the fate of the consulate. Yeah. During the First World War in 1915, 1916, even the support for Ottoman already started to split because of the Hijaz reform by Sharif Hussein. Yeah. Even within the Hadromi community itself, during the same period, they also split the community. So it became a bit chaotic. And soon after the loss of the Ottoman in the First World War, the activities declined significantly until the end of the Ottoman period. I think that's all that I can explain to you. I hope it's clear enough. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Doctor. You guys can continue.
question. Was there any money collected for the hijab randomly by the Indonesians, and if yes, how much, and how did they send it to Istanbul? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, at least so far I know at least 2 consuls during that period met some merchants, local merchants, Hadramis, to collect money. But so I don't have the number so far. Yeah, I don't have the number. But I have the number regarding Red Crescent Society. They have the organization, they established first in Batavia, and they collect money up to this is during Balkarawat, yeah. In 1912 up to 1913, they collect up to, and they send up to 46,000 franc. I don't know what, compared to ringgit or to dollar, yeah, but it's quite big. And in 1916, they also established another one, Red Crescent Society. The previous one in Batavia, the second one in Surabaya, and they collect money they send up to 20,000 franc. How they send? It is mentioned also they send through their company, through bank. The second one in Surabaya, they were helped by the consul to send the money to Red Crescent Society in Istanbul.
Thank you for the questions. Any other question from the participant? No? If there is no other question, thank you so much, Doctor. Now we'll proceed our research presentation today with the topic hybrid warfare, how the United States and Israel are using the Mujahideen jihad in their war against Iran from the Balkans. By the SLC. Thank you.
So, okay, so this presentation is related to research that I made, and out of which I produced one article, but I'm going to produce a second one. So, as you can see from my title, I am analyzing the hybrid warfare, which the United States and Israel are waging against Iran from Europe to Southeast Asia. I do not know how many of you have followed the latest news in Iran, where in the West, but even here in Kuala Lumpur, you probably could have seen hundreds, maybe thousands of historical Iranians, feminist LGBT groups protesting in European capitals, in Israel, against the Islamic government of Iran and against the hijab. This picture is from the official website of the Israeli government, and as you can see from their Twitter page, the Israeli government was writing that Israeli women stand with Iranian women. This snapshot is from 28 September 2022. This was a time when the United States and Israel started a massive hybrid warfare against Iran. Now, before going to Iran, let us make a historical resume. What is the problem that the Muslims are facing nowadays? In the Middle East, the problem is the creation of Israel. So how did Israel come into existence? Well, we know what happened during the First World War. From 1914 to 1917, we had the British invasion of the Ottoman Empire and the Mutasawwat al-Quds, or Jerusalem. In November 1917, the British, they signed the infamous Balfour Declaration, where they proposed to the Zionists the creation of a Jewish state in Palestine. Then, as the British managed to defeat and to destroy the Ottoman Empire, in 1922 we'll have the dissolution of the Ottoman Empire, and in 1924, for the first time since the time of Hazrat Ibn Bakr, the Sunni world will be without a caliph. And then in 1948, May, we will have the proclamation of Israel, and from that moment onward, the Muslim world is going to see a nightmare in Palestine, where native Palestinians, Arabs, Christians, and Muslims will be violently killed, expelled from their homeland, and Palestine will be Judaized. Now, the war against Palestine continued even during the Cold War. During the Cold War, Israel, the new state that the British imperialism formed, will be supported by the United Kingdom, US, and France. And in the 4 wars that Israel is going to wage against its Arab neighbors, Israel will always prevail. We'll have the first Arab-Israeli War of 1948, the second Arab-Israeli War of 1956, the third Arab-Israeli War, or the Six-Day War of the first 1956, the second 1967, and the fourth Arab-Israeli War, or the Ramadan or Yom Kippur War of 1973. In 2012, we had an advisor of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who came to Mang Center at the University of Toronto. And in his speech to Canadian academicians, the advisor to Benjamin Netanyahu said that during our war with the Arabs, we have followed a tactic of mass violence. So what we do with the Arabs, when we go and fight with them, we hit them very hard so that they never think to come back to us. And this is what happened after the Fourth Arab-Israeli War, which was followed by the Camp David Accords of 1978, and finally with the Egyptian-Israeli peace treaty of 1979. During the Cold War, Israel managed to defeat and to prevail over the Arabs. The advisor of Israeli Prime Minister, in his presentation that he gave to us at the University of Toronto, he told us, when we made peace with Egypt, that was the greatest achievement in our history. Because the major threat and the country which could seriously defeat and destroy Israel was Egypt. Because even though Israel historically had been armed to the teeth by Western imperialism, still Egypt had the numerical superiority to defeat the Jewish state. Now, the organized war against the Sunni and the Arab world to kill its resistance for the liberation of Palestine, as many of you know, continued even after the collapse of the Soviet Union. In September 11, 1990, when the Soviet Union was collapsing, President George Bush, the first, held a speech in the US Congress, and he said, now we live in the era of a new world order. The new world order which the Americans were going to construct after the collapse of the Soviet Union was an era of American-Israeli imperialism, which, as Samuel Huntington has shown in his Clash of Civilizations, aimed to destroy one and for all the resistance of the Islamic world against Israel. And what happened after 1990? On 16 January 1991, we'll have the first Iraq War. The Americans will use as a pretext the Iraqi intervention in Kuwait to start their first war after the Cold War against Arab Islamic states. Then, 10 years later, on 9/11/2001, we'll have the New York terrorist attacks. Then, a month later, October 2001, the Americans will launch the invasion of Afghanistan. In March 2003, we'll have the second Iraq War, where the Iraqi state will be destroyed totally. Then, 10 years later almost, on 19th of March 2011, we'll have NATO's intervention and bombing and destruction of Libya. Then, in 2011, the Americans will support a number of regime change movements in the Arab world. We'll have the Egyptian Arab Spring, which will continue from 2011 until 2014. The Yemeni crisis, which continues until today. The Syrian Arab Spring, and then finally in 2016, we will have a CIA villainous coup against Turkey, where the Americans tried to remove from power the Turkish government. Now, something very strange happened to the world of Islam in 1979. At the time when Saddam and Egypt decided to abandon the Palestinian struggle, a Shia revolution happened in Iran. Imam Khomeini, the cleric that you see here in this picture with Arafat, brought the traditional Shia theology, because in the traditional Shia theology, the Shias, they should never have power, by making a major bid'ah in the Shia theology, he will lead an Iranian Islamic revolution. From the very first moment that Khomeini will come to power, he will turn the issue of Palestine into an international Islamic issue. Until the year 2003, when the majority of the post-Cold War Arab states were still quite powerful, Iranian Islamism was competing with Arab nationalism over the issue of Palestine. But the Israeli Peace Treaty of 1979, the toppling of Saddam Hussein in 2003, the destruction of Syria from 2011 to 2015, the killing of Gaddafi in 2011, the Abraham Accords of 2021 have led the Iranians without any serious competitor in the world of Islam. What had happened after the Cold War, the Americans and Israelis, one by one, they destroyed all the Arab Sunni states, which until now were supporting the issue of Palestine. Now, since the Islamic Revolution, Iran has officially supported all the Palestinian groups in their fight against Israeli colonization. From Hamas to the Palestinian Islamic Jihad to the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, and any Arab, Christian, or Islamic group which wants to fight for the liberation of Palestine is supported by Iran. In 1982, Iran established the Hezbollah, a political and military organization of Shia Muslims resisting Israeli occupation in Lebanon. And then what happened? In 2006, when the United States and Israel, after destroying Iraq and threatening Syria with war, when they thought that the Arab resistance against Israel had died, they faced another war. The Israeli Hezbollah war of 2006 was the first war in the history of the Arab world when Israel lost and was forced to retreat from a battle with an Arab army. To resist US and Israeli imperialism, Iran, since the collapse of the Arab states, has created what it calls an axis of resistance. It supports Islamic militias in Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Lebanon, and Palestine. What is the answer of US and Israel towards this axis of resistance? Is conventional and not conventional war against Iran. Now, what I analyze in my article is mainly the hybrid war. So what is the hybrid war? The hybrid war which the United States and Israel wages against Iran has many phases. One is classical warfare. Example of the classical warfare is the war between Iran and Iraq in 1980, the war of Israel and Hezbollah in 2006, or even the Syrian civil war. Non-classical warfare includes terrorism. An example of this non-classic terrorist war is the use of terrorist groups which attack institutions or allies of Iran in the Middle East. The Mujahideen al-Haq, which I did in my article, and a number of tactical organizations are such an example. Another example of the hybrid war is the economic warfare. An example of this are economic sanctions against Iran, which are aimed to change its stance towards Palestine and Israel and support for political Islam. Another very important war is the propaganda, fake news, ideological warfare. In the West, US and Israel has been very successful since the collapse of the Soviet Union and since the destruction of the Arab Sunni states to depict Iran as a terrorist state, and of course all Palestinian resistance groups from Hamas to Palestinian Islamic Jihad, they are all labeled as terrorists throughout the West. Another war is, which comes under the propaganda war, is the theological warfare. In the Sunni world, Saudi Arabia has been the leading player of the theological warfare by deploying takfiri ideology in the name of Sunni Islam, whereby Iranians have been declared as non-Muslims and enemies of Iran. Now, very interesting example of the hybrid warfare are the Mujahideen al-Haq. The Mujahideen al-Haq, which is depicted as the largest Iranian group in exile by the US government, who wants to topple the Islamic Republic of Iran, is one of the most violent terrorist organizations which threaten the stability of Iran and has committed countless acts of terror. The MEC, which took part with the mullahs in Iran to topple the Shah, later, because they are a Marxist cult, they broke with the Islamic Republic, and first they were supported by France, later by Saddam Hussein in Iraq. The United States, UK, European Union, Japan, and Canada, they had all listed the Mujahideen al-Haq as a terrorist organization until 2018 and 2013, when they delisted this organization. Between 2013 and 2016, the Mujahideen al-Haq was relocated to Albania. MEC is a cult headed by this woman, Maryam Rajabi, who pretends to have supernatural power. She pretends to be the wife of Imam Mahdi, because in Shia Islam, they believe in some supernatural imams. Even though she's not allowed to enter the United States and United Kingdom, she is depicted by the US and Israeli administration as the leader of the opposition to the Iranian regime. Here is Maryam Rajabi meeting Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State of the US. Now, the Mujahideen, since their relocation to Albania, they have built a paramilitary camp, and from there they wage cyber terrorism and real terrorism against the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, even though these are prohibited to go into Albanian penal code, the Albanian government never implements the law when it comes to that. Here are pictures of the Mujahideen using computers in order to spread fake news and incite people to protest against Iran from Albania. Now, the fake news which MEC creates are often used by Western governments. In my article, I show how MEC implants fake news in its websites, how these fake news then are taken by US officials, how they create fake Twitter accounts, and how the media of the machinery of the fake news creates fake news in the West about what happens in Iran. What is interesting is that MEC, since its location to Albania, has turned the town of Lanza into the Mecca of anti-Iran movement. Many Zionist Western politicians, from Rudy Giuliani to John Bolton and others, they come to Albania and they want regime change in Iran. MEC has been quite successful on forcing many European governments to have their relations destroyed with Iran, and part of their cyber war is, of course, even the war against the journalists. They are very hostile to journalists. Now, what happened with the recent protests in Iran? Albania, where MEC is located, became one of the major countries which produced the largest number of tweets calling for protests against Iran. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube are becoming very powerful weapons in regime change. And just some information, during the month of September, from Albania, the Mujahideen generated 2 million tweets calling for regime change in Iran. The population of Albania is 2.5 million, and Twitter probably is used maybe by maximum 10,000 Albanians. So the question is, where did all these tweets come? Now, there is a huge industry which is funded mainly by the United States, which was not only the Mujahideen, but even many Iranian activists. An example is this lady, Masih Alinejad, who was paid by US government $628,000 for her propaganda against Iran. And people who have seen the recent protests in Iran, these people through Twitter and YouTube and Facebook managed to generate a massive hysteria against hijab, against Islam, and against practicing Muslims. The propaganda against Iran works even in Southeast Asia. Very often you will see in the media news about Iranian spies in mainly Thai and Israeli newspapers. And in the recent protests in Iran, you could have probably even seen how in Kuala Lumpur, a group of Iranian exiles and Chinese and LGBT people were in a way activated to protest against Iran and its presence in Kuala Lumpur. Next. Now, it is very funny because when you see the behavior of Israel towards Iran, on one hand, Israel tries to push every day the Americans to bomb Iran. On the other hand, when they need to incite protests, they claim that the women of Israel stand with Iranian women. Now, why is Israel and US waging hybrid war against Iran? Simple. Iran wants to create a major front for the liberation of Palestine. Here is a poster which speaks 1,000 words from the Freedom of Palestine event at Quds Cultural Center in Tehran in Ramadan 2017. And you can see all the people who are here in this poster. From Ayatollah Khamenei to Gaddafi to Erdogan to Mahathir of Malaysia, etc. Iran has tried to turn the issue of Palestine into a national issue. This is, for example, the Palestine Square in Tehran, where you see depiction of Iranian and Palestinian fighters fighting to liberate Palestine. So for this reason, the United States has constructed a very sophisticated network in its hybrid warfare against Iran, a part of which is propaganda warfare. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Osi. Is there any question from the participants?
Thank you. Very interesting, Dr. Osi. Regarding Mujahideen Irhab, I want to know what is actually their ideology. Do they have Marxist idea as well? As part of the ideology or not? And did they involve in Iran revolution before? Along with the Khomeini, but with on his view.
So the Mujahideen Irhab, they started as a Marxist socialist movement, mainly based on the ideas of Ali Sharia. But what happened after they failed and the Khomeini removed them from power, they went to Iraq, where Saddam Hussein turned them into his Fedayeen for fighting against Iran. And during the war between Iran and Iraq, they took part in the invasion of Iraq. But then in 2003, when the Americans bombed Iraq, they bombed Mujahideens as well, and their leader was killed by the Americans, Massoud Rajavi. And from this moment, his third wife, the lady that you show in the picture, then they decided to work with Israel, and they were very important. Israel uses them a lot for killing Iranian scientists and others. And now they have mainly become a cult. So, I mean, and this is what I showed you in my article, from a revolutionary Marxist, anti-imperialist movement that they were, now they're totally Zionists. And Maria Rajavi, in her speeches and discussions with Americans and Europeans, she tells them, if you bring me to power, I will make Iran an ally of Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, all Palestinian groups, they will end, we will not give them any money. And moreover, she follows the in the Middle East agenda of U.S. administration, which aims to dismantle the nation state in the Middle East. So she accepts the creation of an autonomous Kurdish state, Baluchi state, Arab state, which in a way aims to balkanize on the Middle East.
Thank you, Dr. Alvin, for the question. Any other question from the participant? If no, we will proceed to the next presentation. Thank you, Dr. Alvin. The next presentation is about an universal idea of justice, the spread of the circle of justice idea in the many world by Dr. Hazizi. Please welcome, Dr.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, thank you for coming. Quite huge number actually. We outside actually quite surprised actually. Quite a huge number, quite huge crowd. Coming today. Alhamdulillah. Okay. So, regarding my topic, okay, is mainly about this. The main idea is the circle of justice. Okay. I believe not many of us have heard this term or this phrase. So that's the thing that I want to highlight today. And to be honest, this thing is the topic that I took for granted before this. I have described a few times in my thesis, in my master, and in my PhD. But I just took for granted and just passingly talk about it. But later, when in discussion with a few friends, I'm not sure it's come to be or not, okay, with a few friends and with a few people, we agree that somehow this topic are quite interesting, quite important to be studied. And it has a very huge influence in the Middle Eastern punya academia or Middle Eastern punya literature discussion, okay? But not so much paid attention by the Malays in this area. Okay? So we are going to see, okay, what is this circle of justice, okay, and is spread in the Malay, in the Islamic world, okay, in the Middle East, you can say, and is existed in the Middle world, and there is on. What is the significance of this circle of justice punya discussion? Okay, next. So basically, these are the definition. Okay, what is the circle of justice? Ancient Middle Eastern political concept. Okay, and a summarized description of the relationship between Middle Eastern state and their society. That means how they picture, they imagine or they describe the relationship between the state and also the people. Okay, what the thing that are need to stabilize the kingdom, to ensure the stability, the strong, and what the thing that have led to the weakness of the kingdom. If they neglect this circle of justice, it will lead to the decline and the collapse of the government of the kingdom. Okay, next. Just go straight away. Okay, next. The king at the top of the society was seen as the dependent on the peasant at the bottom. They could only provide him revenue if he provide them justice. So these are the things that they want to set up. The interdependent between the two group of society or two segment of people, we can say. To say that contrary to our widely accepted idea that king is everything, okay, but this idea says that no, king is not everything. Okay? King or the ruler is heavily dependent on his people, and they need this relationship, and they are somehow complementary each other. Okay? And somehow this idea we quite understand, okay, that how people are, how the ruler need the people and the people need ruler. Okay? But the way we portray it is you can say that somehow in the more common term we say about the kuasa rakyat, for example, or the role of the people, for example, the influence of people for the society or the kingdom. We thought for the long time we thought it is only a modern concept. Okay? Only the modern with the rise of the democracy, we thought about this, the role played on the people. But no, actually, okay? Even before the invention of this democracy, the the emergence of the modern political thought, our scholars in the past had already thought about this, and not only from Muslim. Okay, we see later on. This circle of justice was not created by Muslim. Okay, next, later on. Next slide. So these are the example of the circle of justice, and why it was called as circle of justice because of the diagram. Okay, how they picture, how they demonstrate, how they try to convey what is this concept into the circle of justice. And the other reason why they able to make it a circle. Okay, and this circle was again quite a new naming or new creation, you can say. It was created by the Ottoman scholars. Okay? When the Ottoman meet with this concept, they portray this idea into the circle, came the word circle of justice. Okay? Before that, it was just like a normal phrase, okay? Normal description, normal punya paragraph lah. Okay? The next. Then another example. Okay, next. Then we have. Okay, these are the thing. Okay, these are the. I can say these are the main element or the basic element of what is circle of justice. Okay, the one is the garden fenced by the state. The state is an authority to enliven tradition. Tradition is a policy guided by the kings. The king is the shepherd aided by the army. The army is the helmet secured by the treasure. Treasure is the earning drawn by the people. People are subject and accountable before justice. Justice is known and the people and justice is known and the upholder of the world and impact to the first one. So that makes it a second. Okay, the relationship. So that means in order for you to ensure the first, you need to secure the last one. Okay. Okay, so that makes that a second. Okay. And actually the next, there are many versions of it. Okay. The first one is you can say the longest version. Longer version usually have 8 stanza, you can say 8 phrase. And you have the shorter one is 4 line, much more summary, much more simple. No power without troops, no troop without money, no money without prosperity, no prosperity without justice and good administration. Okay. And good administration will back to the power, the simple one. Okay, next, the simple is more to see. Okay. Okay, in the Muslim scholar writings works, okay, usually the Muslim ascribe to the Persian, okay, to the Persian scholars or to the Persian ruler, Al-Nusirwan. Okay, Al-Nusirwan, they just usually they are the thing that they say. Okay. But the earliest one, okay, the widely idea, the earliest one they also subscribe to the Aristotle, the Greek philosopher. They say that these are the advice given by Aristotle to Alexander the Great. There are the two common story, common narration that if we read in our Islamic literature. But can you next? This scholar Linda Ketali, okay, she had made more further research. He said that this idea can be tracked back up to the Mesopotamian era during the time of the Hammurabi. That's it. That her argument. But of course, she also agreed that you can debate to an extent that really ascribe to the Hammurabi, but at least it was claimed was during the Hammurabi punya era. Okay, next. Okay. This when I say about the universal of I try to identify, to trace. Okay, either that the Middle Eastern punya society or about the others. At least the Indian have the same concept. Okay? The king, the minister, that means the country, the fort, the treasury, the army, and the friend, and the media are the thing that make the sovereignty. So somehow a little bit similar to the circle of justice. Okay. Next. Okay. Even study the attribution, even some attribute it to the Ali bin Abi Talib radhiyallahu anhu. Okay, even some to the Abu al-As. Okay, next on is to move forward. Because it's quite direct discussion. Next. Okay, these are the things that have been believed to be said by this Aristotle. Okay, quite the same concept, quite the same idea. I mean, the concept of law, justice, justice will maintain stability will make to the prosperity. Okay, that's the thing, the same cycle that we maintain a good country, a stable country, a prosperous country, they need all these things. Okay? The law, the justice, okay? The economic, the thing, the economic. Okay? The next. The oldest one, of course, by this, Ibn Qutaybah, okay? In the Ulul Akbar, in the first, what we can say, the first volume of Ulul Akbar, Kitab Al-Sultan, the most simple one. Okay, next. This by the Kai Kaus in Kamus Nanya, also quite the same thing. Okay. These are more like the phrase one, Okay, next. This in the November, interesting. Okay, he had quoted 3 versions. Okay. The first one is by this Zoroastrian. They also ascribe to the Zoroastrian. Okay, because dia punya tradition. Okay, the next, the on the unusual one, okay, the famous one. Okay, next. But these are the total, okay, these are the 3 versions of the having quoted by Muhammad, and these are the ones taken by the Ottoman scholars. Okay, next. This is about very much Nabi, another interesting development. Okay, the Nabi. Okay, next. Okay, the Ottoman. Okay. So these are the scholars that coined the term currently Kina Rizali Ali Selvi. He the one who coined the term circle of justice, and he the one who the first one to make the circular punya image. Okay. And later came with the Mustafa Naimah, so who further summarize it from 8 to 5. Okay, next, the schedule. And actually Naimah is the first so far that I found make it into 5. Okay, the rest is either 8 or make it into 4. Okay, he only one to make it into 5 stanza or 5 phrase. Okay. Okay, next. Okay, this is more common. Just go through it to see. Okay, among the discussion by the scholars. Okay, next, what we have here. Okay, but this is one case that I found about this of justice. Quite interesting actually. Next. This is the thing that I meet first. These are the matter that I meet first, and the thing that build my reading my understanding about this topic. Okay, these are the latest book, okay, that comprehensively talk about this. Okay, by this Ida El-Tali. Okay, Ida T-Dalu. Okay. Very, very extensive. He traced out the development, okay, from the Mesopotamian punya era. Okay, then how it implemented by the Abbasid, for example. Okay, he said the Abbasid also had that with all these like this Ibn Qutaybah, for example. Okay, later on the Ottoman era. Okay, next. And for the Malay world, only Dr. Azhar Ibrahim had briefly mentioned about it so far that I have found. Okay, and he also only just mentioned it briefly without any further discussion. Okay, when he just discussed about Tanjung Salatin, he just mentioned that Tanjung Salatin have this circle of justice, and only that. And he has a Persian influence. Okay, only that. He also did not further explain. Okay. So from that, I saw there is a kind of a huge gap. Okay, in our academia, in our discussion about the circle of justice in the new one. Okay. Okay, next. So these are mainly the objectives. Okay, the next one. The method, I just select several related that we have. Okay, of course, the more specific, we call the statecraft literature. Okay, this Tanjung Salatin, Ustaz Salatin, okay, Nasir Al-Muluk, okay, Tawar Al-Muhimah. Okay, these are the famous one. Somehow also in our historical literature, okay, ada Salatin, Kaib Melayu, yang satu Nafis. And one also legal text, at least the 2 one, I identify in Perak punya legal text, at least for now, I still searching in Bukan Melaka to extend the element is there or not. Okay, we see the example. Okay, the next one. Okay, next. Okay, these are from the Tanjung Salatin. Okay, quite long, very, very long punya with the description about the Salatin, but the concept is there, the idea is there. Okay. So you don't want to read it, it's very, very long. Okay, you can take maybe at least one minute to display review for you to read for a while. Okay. The idea is there, maka bertambah-tambahlah hasil raja, penuhlah pembedaraan, okay. Maka sukalah segala menteri dan kebalan. Kesempurnaan raja itu dengan laskar is army, laskar. dah cakap itu dengan hartanya. Dan rakyat juga dan kesudahan harta itu juga dengan rakyat, dan kesempurnaan rakyat itu dengan menyediakan harta dan resource bagi antara mereka itu. That means about the idea of justice, that the importance of the ruler to maintain justice, to preserve justice for the people. Next. These are the Bustan, written by the famous Sheikh Nurul Adalani in 1638. I used earlier than that, 1603, so quite early, already been arrived in this area. Most of them, at least, they are subscribed to the Persian or Aristotle. Okay, these are the most famous one. They subscribe to Aristotle or to the Anushi one. Okay. Later, we also have this from next. Ada two quotation. The next one. For Nasihat Al-Muluk, okay, by Imam Ghazali, okay, the translation one. Okay. Nasihat Al-Muluk are quite late, okay, but I believe, yeah, of course, the dating of the existing manuscript around 1700, okay, 1700 around that year. But I believe the translation is exist much earlier than that, and that become the motivation or the inspiration for Bukhari al-Jawhari to write the Salatin. I believe that. Okay, but just because we just get the age of the manuscript in 1700, that's why we make the dating. Nasihat Al-Muluk by Imam Ghazali. The next one. Okay, we want to focus more on this Tawara'at Al-Muhimah. Okay, I think it's very, very interesting that I found from the Tawara'at Al-Muhimah. Okay. Because there are two reasons. Okay. Tawara'at Al-Muhimah had provided an interesting adaptation of the circle of justice, which signified the genius of his writer Raja Al-Haji, because instead of recycling the common quoted version which stressed on justice, Raja Al-Haji had presented it as an opposite form, kind of circle of injustice. And he the one so far that formed it in form of the Shair or poems. The others in terms of phrase, in this description, Raja Al-Haji had presented it in form of Shair. Shair that part of this Tawara'at Al-Muhimah, the second part of Tawara'at Al-Muhimah. Okay, the Shair. So we want to see the Shair. The next. Okay, these are the Shair. Of course, I'm not recite the Shair today lah. Okay, and just talk Ayuhai segala Raja Menteri serta pegawai kanan dan kiri, hendaklah jaga ingatkan negeri. Rompak penyamun, kampak curi, kehidupan rakyat janganlah lupa. Fakir miskin, hina dan apa-apa, jangan sekali tuan dan apa. Akhirnya bala datang menerpa. Beberapa negeri terkena bala sebab perbuatan kepala-kepala, kena perbuatan banyak yang cela. Datanglah muka Allah Ta'ala, jika datang muka Tuhan, ahli negeri yang tidak ketahuan. Kelakuan seperti binatang dan hewan, hilanglah malu, hilang bangsawan. Kacaulah negeri tidak terperi, berdengki-dengkian sama sendiri, umpat dan puji sehari-hari. Ya, pada raja tidaklah negeri, raja pun sudah hilang haibatnya, gagah perkasanya. Kepada segala raja kenderanya, kepada segala rakyat kenderanya, sebab kena ampun gadai apanya, serta dengan fasik zalimnya. So instead of facing what you get from justice, Raja Al-Haji tell you what you get from injustice. When you neglect your responsibility, when you don't care about the people, about the economy, okay, that the thing that can be stressed. That's the stage. Maybe Raja Halis think that we want in the good way, people don't listen. How what it is change this time? We want it from the bad thing. Okay? We want them about what happened if they are doing injustice. Okay, last thing, I think. For this one article from the Undang-Undang Perusahaan Perak, he said that what are the conditions that promote peace in the country? Okay, the minister made an answer: first, just law; second, keep food; third, show the country prosper. Okay, the same element, justice, and also about economy, keep food. Okay, that the country or the state ruler need to ensure that economy is okay, is stable, so that you can get the cheap food. Only that the country will prosper. So I think these are the most concise form of the circle of justice so far. Although it's not kind of presented in the circle, but because that the term that we have today lah for now. Okay, because before that we have no term. Okay, the only the government that the one who coined the term is Kinalizade. Okay. But the thing that for me that quite interesting about this cheap food, okay, that's mean in the past itself they are still struggling with the issue of the price of food. Okay, I still remember one of our later Islam. He said that even in the area of the Mughal, we have the same issue of the cheap food. About the price of the food. Even the one Sultan make some kind of, maybe we can say in the modern day, like is what we can say, subsidy for the food in during the Mughal era. Okay. So this issue of food price is not the new issue. It is our struggle. From the beginning, since for the past until today, we are still struggling with that. Okay, the last one, the significant. Okay. First, they signify the intellectual development in the Malay world, and they show that the scholars and our ulama were always open and alert to what happened in the mainland of the Islam. Okay. And they are very receptive and open to accept any good idea. Okay. And to signify that the Malay world, they are not being secluded from the larger Muslim world. They always receive the idea from our Islam mainland, you can say. And we can further see that, for example, when we read the account about Aceh, about the Perak, even about Melaka. Okay. For example, when Ibn Battuta described he visit to Pasai, for example, he said that there are many non-Malay scholars from the Iran, for example, from the Arab in the court or in the palace. And I believe this surrounding, this condition, this tradition, this idea had been imported to the Malay world, and the Malay ready to accept it. Okay. And the last one is to signify the effort by the ulama, by our scholars, by our leaders, by our ministers, for example, to consistently warn the rulers, okay, that you as a ruler, you need to do justice, you need to keep the welfare of the people. Okay. So that are the common thing. Again, to say that our people, our ulama, is not just passively accept what happened. Okay, we are constant, and I believe that this tradition should be continued until okay, our leaders, our scholars, for example, should consistently warn or at least advise our rulers, not only our king, our sultan, but also our minister as well. So we have the tradition, so why not we just continue the tradition? And of course, we give the advice in the good way, in the wise way, in the good manner. Okay, I think that's all for today that I want to state. Next, anything else? Okay, this all for me. Okay, so what else?
Thank you, Dr. Azizi. Any questions? So there is no question. Thank you, Dr. Azizi. Now let's just move on to the last speakers for today. I would like to invite Dr. Fauzia with her research on Islam in Japan through the lens of Muslim scholars around the world.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, so we now come to the final presentation. I like to stick to 30 minutes here, or 20 minutes. 20 or 30 minutes. Okay, now, so this topic, as you can see on the slide, on the projector here, right here. There. So it's called Islam in Japan through the lens of Muslim scholar Umar Buddha. So I'm teaching Japanese history, and I'm increasingly how this we're interested in knowing more about Muslims in Japan, which is a Muslim country. They have Muslims there, but in a very small number. As to how many Muslims, the estimates given so far varies, ranging from 100,000 to 200,000 at the moment. Now, Umar Mita, so this is the guy. Okay, this is the person that I'm going to talk about. So he's a Japanese. He lived in the late 19th century, and he died in 1983. Yeah. So I would say he's such a person who's not really been studied much by people of today or by historians. Not much has been written by about him. As for his contributions, he was the first Japanese Muslim to have translated Quran into Japanese. Okay, and that is of great service in the sense that people of Japan now, who are, as we know, not so good in other languages apart from their own, they can learn Quran through the translation copy that he made. And he also produced several number of books on Islam. Okay, you can move to the next slide. Okay, before that. So those two last points, I like to focus more on these two compared to like giving details on his life, reasons for his conversion, and most importantly, his views on Islam in Japan. Okay, next. These pictures that I show you are related to the reasons for his conversion. He was in China. Those pictures, by the way, are Muslims in China. He was in China for over 20 years. And that was from 1922 until 1945. He was in service of the Japanese government, worked in Manchurian Railways company. And while staying there, he had contact with many Muslims. And he somehow realized that their way of life was different. And he got interested to know more about them. And these Muslims in China, I mean, this situation where you've got Muslims in China, something that's not present in Japan, something that was you couldn't be observed in Japan, and so he was interested to know more about them. Okay, and he had also worked with them, so that's how that's the kind of interactions that he had with these Muslims. Okay, next picture, or pictures. Here, on your left side is a figure called Omar Yamaoka. He's a Japanese Jew, and he was the first Japanese converts to Muslims to Islam. He was among the first Muslims to have converted to Islam, and he was in contact with Umar Mita. And through these contacts, Umar Mita learned more about Islam. So this is another reason why he converted to Islam. And about that picture, the Makkah Mukarramah, that's the place where he used to go and study. And he also went to Pakistan and met up with Muslim scholars
So all these foreign influences that he had led to his conversion. Okay, next. Okay, coming to the last point about his views on Islam. So problems, I put problems here, because for someone to convert to a new religion or a new faith or a new ideology, there must be something about the existing or the prevailing religion or system, whatever that you have that you find to be inconsistent, to be, problematic. Okay? So he did find problems in the situation, in Japanese society. And I put this in brief. In that first sentence, all these are points, yeah? Materialistic, something that we can see very clearly in Japanese society. And he, the one that observed that the society in Japan was becoming more and more materialistic by the day, or as time passes, they became more and more materialistic. And that was not good, according to him. And also about vacuum in souls, the people didn't have that, their souls, yeah, were vacuum, and, no spiritual values or, and that made them to somehow lose their way, yeah, in living their lives. And then no real spiritual guide in terms of Holy Scriptures, something that they can use as a guide in their life. And then he also observed that the people were losing good human qualities, something that the Japanese people were known for. And he was saying that these people really, they were, moving away from these good qualities, such as honesty, sincerity, truth, and so on. And that's because of the absence of spiritual values and the emphasis on materialistic way of life that they are living. Okay, and as to the second statement or sentence that I put there, while Japan, the people in general, believe in these religions, Shintoism, Confucianism, and Buddhism, he, Umamita, argued that these religions are lacking and not helping the people in living their life in a good way, because of the teachings and the ideas of these religions are very ambiguous or very philosophical, and also lack solutions to contemporary problems or daily life problems. So, ambiguous and philosophical here means for the normal people with average education or no education, they will find it very difficult to understand all the terms, all the concepts in these religions. Only people with like high or very good knowledge can grasp some of the meanings of these concepts contained in Buddhism, Confucianism, or Shintoism. No solutions. Economical issues or economic issues, political issues, or social issues. They couldn't really refer to these religions for solutions to the problems that they have. Okay, Buddhism, as we all know, originated from India, right? Coming to China and then to Korea and then passed on to Japan. And this religion is, as of now, among the top three religions in Japan, Shintoism, Confucianism, and Buddhism. But then I purposely put this picture of Buddhism. These are Buddhist monks, by the way, because at the moment, Buddhism tend to create problems in the sense that there are many new Buddhist sects, Buddhist groups, which tend to resort to extremist or these radical actions, or terrorist actions. So we have a term in Japan now called Buddhist terrorism, as opposed to what we often hear, Islamic or Muslim terrorism. In Japan, they do not have that, rather they have Buddhist terrorism. So these groups, they were influenced by, they took up some of the Buddhist teachings and ideas. But then they were very radical and extreme. And they were known to have involved in some attacks in Japan. The most famous one, I'm not sure whether you remember this or not, this was in 1995. The passengers, commuters of train, Tokyo train, subway, not the train, the train, they were attacked in 1995 by a Buddhist group, one of these groups, killing 13 and injured about 6,000 people using a gas called sarin gas, right? And then not long after that incident, a couple more attacks were planned by so-called Buddhist, groups, wanting or they aim to cause these casualties or death or to harm people. The first one totaling about 20,000 people, and another one about 9,000 people. They targeted people who were completely bad trains. They wanted to attack people who were using all these, this subway in Japan. And so that's the Buddhist terrorism, which is now increasingly seen as a threat in Japan, a problem in Japan. Okay, next is his views on Islam. So for us Muslims, to see these, views about Islam, that Islam is easy to understand compared to some other religions, to us, that's very true, right? Because we are Muslims and we believe that Islam is the most logical religion there is. It's not just one God, not many gods or goddesses, right? No Trinity concept, which is very confusing by the way. Intelligible to anybody. Even a peasant, even a farmer can understand, if you for Islam, the basic teaching of Islam. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to have this very high education to understand the teachings of Islam. Solutions. It's about solutions. In Islam, we can, have perhaps not exactly 100% solutions to the problems that we have, but at least we can use we can have some guidelines as to how to approach and some issues and then find the problems. Yes. And also he mentioned something about this treatment, special treatment or privileged treatment given to certain groups of people in the non-Muslim societies. Like in Japanese society, although they had abandoned the caste system, they used to have a caste system, by the way, back in the time of the shogunate or the shogun period, whereby their system was classified into strictly these scholars, elite class, and then artisans, peasants, merchants, and so on. But then, still, even after they started that caste system, as they transformed themselves into a modern Jamaican state, they still have that sort of like social recognition in their society. Like in Japan today, there is a group called Murakumi. This is outcast people. They are not supposed to be part of that society. They were to be sidelined, marginalized, and even today, these Murakumi, in order for them to survive, and in order for them to get jobs, to get jobs so that they can have food on the table, they will have to hide their identity. They couldn't tell like, I'm Brahmin, I'm descendant of Brahmin, or otherwise he wouldn't be given to jobs. You will be treated as a member of the society. So that's something about caste system. Okay? Now, as for the prospect of Islam, he did say something about this issue. He said that if there are elements or factors like, people here who teach Islam well, people who are very related to Islam, and then if these teachings were spread through teachings, because Islam itself, as we know, there are people who try to manipulate, or there are people who try to introduce their own ideas, like come up with different versions or different teachings, which we call Islam, by the way. So he said the true teachings of Islam and the good or the right person to teach Islam, if these factors are available, then Islam will easily spread in Japan. And then we mentioned about Japanese people being people who love peace and who like something that's practical. So Islam is peace. So he even said that there is no other society or nation that loves peace more than Japanese. I suppose that stems from, this notion about Japanese, loving peace stems from their experience in the past. The war-time period, where they had been very aggressive in the past, and then they had been punished severely for that. Now they didn't want, they no longer want to be known as that sort of people who were aggressive towards others, rather to, they are peaceful people, and also practicality, which is, I think, very true. If you look at what in their life, how practical the Japanese are, in terms of, if you look at in terms of technology, for instance, the things that they invented, that aspect, when it comes to that aspect, they are very practical. They would try to make everything that they could, so that whatever that they produce are very practical, are very usable, are very adaptable, and can be used by all. Now, these statistics that I put here, I tried to find some numbers so as to see whether what he anticipated, because his views, whatever that he said, was made in 1980s, but 23 decades ago, 30 years ago. So I just want to see whether what he had anticipated turned out to be true, whether Islam can be easily spread or not in Japan. That he said, right? So looking at these statistics, we can say, was it true or not? Okay, there was an increase, which is, I would say, not little, but quite substantial. Like the number of Muslims from around 100,000 in 2010 to 200,000 in by 2020, which is what, 10 years period, 10 years period. But of course, we have to be like, maybe you have to know that, all these 100,000 and 200,000 are Japanese people. They are foreigners, foreign Muslims, who came to Japan and lived in Japan and stayed in Japan. The second one, that's the local Muslims or Japanese Muslims. But even looking at their number, from 10,000 to 50,000, I would say the future is bright, right? The future is bright in Japan. So we should be doing more da'wah. We should be sending more people, to just go and find and do something, just send them, or die away. Mosque also, you can see him increase in number. And as to why this happened, of course, Umar didn't trying to figure out what could be the reason here if the increase did take place because he was just talking about situations at that time, during Islam time. As of now, as to current situation, why the increase, happened? Tourism by Muslims. I mean, Muslims tend to go to Japan nowadays. Like by 2020, the Japanese government predicted that the Muslims or the Muslim tourists would go to Japan around 2020, 2022, about that, those years, will reach about 1 million. Compared to early 2000, which is about 150, what? 150,000, that increased to 300,000 by 2010, and then by 2020, 2022, 1 million. So there's a sharp increase of Muslims, going to Japan. And also because of the we have feedbacks from the converts or reverts, Japanese reverts or converts. They say that we applied compared to for Muslims, compared to the very tense and very for Japanese. I mean, their life is very stressful, very tense and so on. So there are other reasons to which I'm not going to mention here because I think it's time to wrap up the presentation because I was thinking about Japanese Islam here. So I can say, can we have the last picture? Yeah, so this is a situation in current Japan, whereby every weekends, Sundays and Sundays, Japanese people, non-Muslim Japanese people, they would go to mosque. They would go to mosque and they would listen to the, some talks or lectures on Islam and Muslim study. And so they show great interest in learning or knowing more about Islam. And that's a good sign for the future of Islam in Japan. Even children, these are old people, right? 50s, 80s, Chinese, your fathers or father's age, or your grandparents, they are also school children and university students. They will go to the mosque, by bus, by bus. They will come in large number and they will explore. Checking out the mosque, and then hearing lectures and so on. So that I would say a good sign. Despite all this Islamophobia, all these bad images or words about Islam that's been spread out by the media. So that is a very good sign. Okay, so with that I'd like to thank you for your attention. And
questions from the participants. The first question is, what are the challenges that Muslim faces during Manchurian in Ummah Minta perspective? And is Muslim during at that time was discriminated as the pressure of their own traditions religion?
The Muslims when?
Manchurian in Ummah Minta.
The Muslims in Manchuria.
Manchurian.
Okay, so in terms of his, he had some things with them. He had, contacts with them. Yeah. So I would say he had a positive view. The question is for problems? Some challenges facing by Muslims in Manchuria during war period. Umayyad period. So he was in Manchuria 1922 until about 1930s, yeah? And then he went to Shanghai. He was not that all the time in Manchuria, that's the northern part of China. So while in Manchuria, yes, he did encounter some Muslims there. But in terms of challenges faced by the Manchurian Muslims here, he didn't mention them, yeah? It's just that he found that what they were practicing are different from the non-Muslim way of life. Yeah? They have different traditions, they have different practices and culture and religion. Challenges, I assume that given the situation, back then in Manchuria in 1920s, that's the Civil War period, right? There was this problem in China plastic for a few decades, starting from right after the World War II, World War I, all the way to World War II, right? So this decade, 20s, 30s, 40s, that's, is China, yeah? In general, one was having problems, yeah? Having to face civil war and then war with Japan, yeah? And so challenges, I would say, what are the challenges that people tend to have during wartime period? Okay, that's my answer.
Okay. The second question is, where the Muslims perform their ibadah during that time and do all kinds of religious things? Is there any surah or masjid that they can get?
If Manchuria. Why Manchuria? Japan.
During Ummah Minta time.
In Manchuria. Okay. As to how many mosques, yeah, masjid, yeah, also, yeah, no mention. But I suppose they have places for gatherings, yeah, for these religious, activities or, yeah. So that's the only thing that I can show.
Thank you.
If I got lost in Japan, I can answer how many.
So the last question is there any law that protect the Muslim population during at that time?
I should change the entire topic now. It's not in China. Okay. Laws, yeah. Okay. If you go by, that time, 1920s, that's the time when the nationalists, Republicans were in China. But then they only ruled mainly the middle part and the southern part of China. The northern part is still very much under this warlord system, warlord rule, right? And warlords, they were very much concerned with their power, with acquiring wealth, and I wouldn't think that they pay much attention on regions, yeah? Oh, groups. Minority groups, yeah? Okay, any more? Shall I go? Shall you? Can I?
So Is there any other question for the participant? Thank you for the question just now, sister. No? Okay. So I think there will be no question, and I would like to thank everyone for joining our history research seminar today, and of course gratitude to our speakers for your time and dedication sharing. I hope it will benefit us in our learning process, inshallah. Before we end this event, let's have a photography session.